In this video, we're going to go over pivot points, we're going to go over price action and how you can trade them using any time frame trading futures, right? So I trade the NQ. I sometimes like to take everything off the charts. I do like to go bare bones sometimes, and I like to read the trends. I like to read the price action. Now, if you've been trading the markets, we've been on a 6-7 day uptrend here on the NASDAQ 100. We could be getting a little bit of a pullback sometime soon, but I want to show you guys how you guys can start to trade price action using pivot points and how you can play them to much success. Because essentially you can start to call the market before the market actually gets there. All you're waiting for is some type of confirmation, right? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to kind of look at price action, see where it potentially could be gravitating towards, and then set those entries, manage your risk accordingly. So how I like to do it, being that I am a day trader, I am a scalper, I don't need, the last quarter's worth of data. I don't need the last 6 months, the last year. I just need to take like the last week to 2 weeks, right? Give me the last week to 2 weeks, and I want to really see, where are our high pivot points? Where are these clear, definitive areas of rejection, these clear, definitive areas where price action tends to reverse or price action tends to gravitate towards. So what we're going to do here, basing this off of the 1 hour time frame, I'm going to really just allow my eyes, right? I'm going to allow my eyes to kind of do the work for me. I'm not going to overanalyze this. I'm not going to overthink it. My eyes automatically gravitate to this low point here, okay? So this low point here is going back 2 weeks. This low point here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this pivot point down here, okay? So I'm going to create this pivot point, and what I'm actually going to do here is I need to turn these left extensions off, and I'm going to create these pivot points. So anywhere where my eyes are gravitated towards a pivot point, right? Meaning an area that is a sufficient, like a significant low or a significant high that tends to hold, okay? So if we kind of notice going back a couple of Fridays, we can see we put in this low, we consolidated sideways. We did have some areas of support here, but this low is a definite pivot point because after we put in this low, we never made a new low. Okay, so 14,205. Now I'm going to show you how to play this pivot point in just a little bit, but let's go ahead and kind of create more of a story here on our chart. Now to the top side, my eyes are automatically gravitated towards this high wick here going back a couple Mondays ago. So what I'm going to do is add this pivot point here, okay, because this at one point in time acted as a clear level of, actually it's this pivot point, acted as a clear level of rejection, okay? So when I noticed that once we really broke through this pivot, we tended to go on this rally. So 14,508. You can see how this chart is starting to come alive here. Today, obviously, the high price is definitely catching my attention here. Could we be looking at a little bit of a pullback? Maybe, right? Maybe. But what I do notice here is that we had multiple hours of consolidation at around 15,412. Okay, so this low point is my eyes are also being drawn to, and my eyes are also being drawn to this low point as well as this high point. So more so, this high point here was a previous area of resistance, and this low point is a clear area of support. Okay, so if you notice what's going on here on the chart, we've got these pivot points that are creating these ranges. Okay, so again, for a lot of you traders out there, you guys sometimes are just trying to jump in on one particular 1 minute candle and try to make your whole day, right? You got to let these trades play out. You really have to let price action develop. So how this chart comes to life is when we start going down. Let's say, for example, you want to play the 15-minute chart, right? So if we start to notice here, this 15-minute chart, and let's just kind of zoom back a few days. If we notice on this 15-minute chart, you're going to see our pivot points start to come to life here. What we would be looking for essentially, if we're looking to play a breakout through 15,412, what would need to happen is price action needs to break that high. Okay, so 15,412, that needs to get broken. Now, you do not want to take that first move, although you can. Just understand we tend to pull back off the first break. Once we get that first break, either it needs to wick or we need to close above it, and then you're going to look for and wait for a preceding candle to confirm that new price over 412, and that's when you want to go long. Now, if we go zoom down into this 15-minute time frame, you're going to notice that the range is very, very big. So we've got a 300-point range here. We need to actually tighten this up a little bit because I don't see anyone giving themselves a 300-point risk for range, right? So my eyes are drawn to this pivot point here because notice the run up, notice the pullback, and notice the breakout. Buyers definitely stepped in, and we're definitely in control of this pivot point here, 15,328. This looks a lot better here. So if we do lose 15,328, it's the same notion. That pivot needs to be broken. Either we need to put in a new low via wick or close, and then we need to confirm that new low. And this is the range we're playing down into. So you want to be taking profits into this zone. So your stop loss, okay? I want to show you guys where your stop loss is going to be. There's two ways that you can kind of play these pivots. There's two ways you can kind of play the price action. To be honest, the best potential way that you should be playing these levels is to definitely get out when you have a technical break in trend. So if you do get into this short position and it kind of, starts to stall and starts to come back into this zone and it closes over a moving average like the 20 SMA, then you should probably get out. Now, again, if you're playing multiple mini contracts, you better have an account size that can account for that drawdown. I would definitely recommend play minis. Play 1 to 2 minis or 1 to 2 micros at a time. By playing those 1 to 2 micros at a time, you can allow yourself to kind of be in these trades. Technically speaking, your stop loss should be a break over 412, right? So as soon as we lose this level, okay, you might look for something like this, right? Where we lose this level, it puts in a new low, and then, it kind of back test, right? Let's say, so it back tests back into the zone. And then once we start to lose, right? Once we start to lose this area again and take out the new low, you jump in. But sometimes price action does this, right? Where it comes right back into this high point. And this is where a lot of people tend to stop out, right? So it's while you stop out here, the next trend that starts to develop is this move here. Okay. So again, technically speaking, you want to give yourself the top of this range as your stop loss. Now, how you're going to be able to play something like that out is depending on your position sizing. Now, if you're going to look to scalp, what you're looking for is that break below this pivot point. And then you would look for some type of consolidation or some type of back test into this range. And then when we lose, okay, when we lose this new low here is when you want to take that short position. So your entry would be through the new low, not necessarily the first time that we break the pivot point. And then you would trying to be targeting a price target back down into the bottom of this range here and take profits where you see fit, and then see what you do at the next pivot point. So again, this is how you can play pivots. This is just using the 15-minute time frame. You can use any type of time frame that you want once you have your pivot levels on there. I could show you something like the 5-minute chart here. If you look at the 5-minute chart, you could actually add another level here. My eyes are really being drawn to this high wick here because for some reason, which is beyond my knowledge or beyond your knowledge, is for whatever reason here, we spiked up and price action did not like this price here. So this tells you on a technical level here, an emotional level, that there was an immediate reaction when price got into 15,024 or 25, right? So if you start to look at these pivot points now, you can start to see a beautiful picture being painted here where you have a range between 15,328 all the way down to 257. You've got room down to 139, and then you've got room down to 15,000, and then our continuation breakout is over 412. Now, if you want to understand, where's potentially the next stop above that area, you would have to look to a daily chart, if not weekly chart. Now, you do have a weekly pivot level here that's sitting at around 15,474. And then, you definitely have a lot of areas of resistance way up here, all the way in the 700s. So this is what you would be looking for on these potential pivot levels. And as you start to zoom down on the smaller time frames is where you can really start to get a good read, right? So that's really where you can start to get a good read. You want to make sure that you go to those high points of those candlesticks, and you want to play them accordingly. Stay patient, right? Stay patient and allow these trades to work out in your favor. Again, a lot of you guys want to jump into the trade as soon as you break a significant level, and then you want the trade just to go down in your favor. It's not always going to do that. It's not going to go straight down from entry. It's not going to bounce straight from, wherever you get into. So say, for example, someone wants to bounce off this pivot point. It doesn't necessarily need to do this, right? This was a great bounce off of this pivot point. That doesn't mean that the next time we get down into this pivot point, we're going to do that. Sometimes we might lose it by a few handles, right? You need to sit in the trade and allow technical damage to be done. So for me personally, being that you're playing in like 150 plus point range here, you really need to use some type of moving average that's going to trail the price action to kind of chop that stop loss in half. I would prefer the 20. So between 15,328 all the way to around 365, it's beautiful, right? 30, 40, 50 points. We can manage that. We can allow this price to come down, chop around, stay under this 20 period moving average with anticipation of getting down here to the next pivot point of 15,257. So if you're looking to play price action, you're looking for these trades, you're looking for these big ranges to play, this is a beautiful way to play it, right? If you want to treat it more so as you want to scalp it, right? If you're looking to scalp, then what you want to do is, depending on the time frame that you're playing, you want to get that 1R, 2R on the ATR, okay? So for example, if we just take price action from the middle of the day here on a 5-minute chart, your ATR is around 15 points. So if you're able to make 15, 20, 25, 30 points, that's a 1-to-1, that's a 1R, that's a 1R, that's a 2R, right? So you're essentially getting 1, 2, even 3 R's depending on the time frame that you're in. I hope that makes sense, right? So again, if you look at it, if the average range of a 5-minute candle on the NQ at around this time, I'm just picking a random time in the day, it's 11 o'clock in the morning here. So if you look at the 11 o'clock in the morning, that average range is about 13, 15 points, right? So if you're able to take a scalp and you take one of these pivot points and you get 13 points, 20 points, 25 points, that's a great trade, right? That's a scalper mentality. If some people are more comfortable scalping, some people who want those bigger moves, 50 points, 60 points, 100 points, you need to give the trade a little bit more room to kind of work out. And I would definitely use maybe the 20, maybe the 10 SMA. You can use the 9 EMA to kind of trail, right? Trail that price action. So that's how you can use price action, pivots, as well as a trailing stop loss, and try to identify potentially where price can be heading. Because if you have these pivot points on your charts, you can predict where price action is going based on what we're doing at those potential pivot points. So if we start to close below this pivot point here, I've got a pretty strong feeling that we're going to gravitate into this bottom range here of the next pivot point. If you have that type of trade plan in place, you are prepared for that trade. Just like the same if we break the highs of 412, you are prepared for it to come up into this 474 area. You are prepared for that, and you understand that you do want to be taking profits on that. And if you want to take those profits more so like a scalper, use that ATR, right? So a lot of you guys like to use a 15-minute time frame. So if we really kind of zoom in on a 15-minute time frame on today's price action, just take a random time when we bounced off this pivot here. Price action here was around 27 points. So 15-minute chart's fantastic, I would say, for day trades. If you want to scalp 2-minute chart, 5-minute chart work great. If you're looking for those longer day trades, I'm starting to really like the 15-minute chart here. Size down a little bit. Don't play as many contracts. And definitely look to get those 25, 35 points, right? I mean, I think the highest ATR we had here was around 27.5. So, we might lose 25 to 50 points depending on how much, our moving average is trailing, which is not bad on a couple of contracts. You could be talking about $100, $200 loss. but you're also talking about $100, $200 trade win, right? Per trade, sometimes $250, $300. So you can essentially look at these 15-minute candles here and look to your pivot points and kind of see exactly where you're at in the movement, right? So if you notice this pivot point here at 15,257, once we really started to break it, right? Again, what did I say? Once we have a pivot point, doesn't mean we just get right in, right? We need to have it break and put in a new high. Once that new high gets confirmed is when we want to get in, okay? So once that new high gets confirmed here, that's where we want to get into the trade between these two candlesticks. And again, what's your stop loss? You can use the previous 5-minute candle or 15-minute candles low, or you can use that trailing 20 SMA, right? Because you're still above your bottom demand, bottom pivot point. So again, if you kind of look at the 284, right? 15,284 goes all the way up to your next pivot point of 412, right? Which was the day's high. But even so, without knowing that we're going to stop here at 412, you understand already just going from the daily chart that you do have room into the 474. So from this potential pivot point here, you could have captured points from 284 at least up to 393. Over 100 points on this move in 15, 30, 45 an hour. Essentially 2 hours worth of work here. So 6:45 in the morning all the way up here to 8:30. Essentially about an hour and 45 minutes was a 100-point move here, playing these pivot points and price action. And again, allow these trades to develop. Position yourself to where you can withstand the movement, right? So as long as you can withstand that movement, drawdown is what I'm talking about, then you're going to do fairly well, and you can know and understand where this potential is going, right? So I hope this video helps you guys. If you guys are looking to trade with me each and every single day live and you want access to that mentorship, those courses, you want access to live call outs, the trades that I'm looking to take, technical analysis, you want to talk with the team, we do live voice chat every single morning. I have a calendar there where you can do one-on-one calls. Definitely take me up on the offer to join Evolution Traders community. I've only got one spot left at the current price. As soon as that spot gets filled, I'm going to raise the price by double. Okay, because I want to work with serious people, and I noticed that, the more expensive something is, the more serious that people are, and the better opportunity they make of their chances. So I want people who are going to really work hard. I want people who are going to want to be profitable, right? Because the last thing that I want to see someone do is invest money into education and then you don't take any advantage of your education, right? So take advantage of the education, take advantage of utilizing the tools of seeing the markets each and every single day with myself and the team. Again, education is key. Without the education, without having a mentor, without having a coach, I would not be in this spot that I'm at today. Being able to have the luxury to do this full time, right? Because it is a luxury. It's not something that, well, because you've been wanting to learn or trying to learn how to trade for 3 or 4 years, nothing is guaranteed, right? You really have to have a lot of discipline. You really have to understand yourself emotionally to be able to get over that hump. But I think that some people need a little bit more help understanding what those mistakes are, right? And I'm pretty good at trying to help you with that. So again, with that being said, I'd love to see that next person join the room, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.